$63 billion disappeared. 25,000 people lost their jobs. 99% of the company's value evaporated in less than 4 months. But Enron did not collapse because of a sudden trick. It collapsed because it had been operating the system correctly for a very long time. The problem was not one dishonest company. The problem was a system that rewarded things that looked right instead of things that were right. In 1985, Enron was born from a merger of 2 natural gas pipeline companies in Houston. No breakthrough technology, no innovation hype, just steel pipes buried underground, moving gas from one place to another. The business was stable, predictable, heavily regulated. And that was the problem. Wall Street does not pay for stability. It pays for growth, for stories, for the feeling that tomorrow will be bigger than today. At the time, Enron was just a utility company. Profits had a ceiling, risk was limited, and the business was boring. But Kenneth Lay, Enron's founder, did not see boredom. He saw something else: deregulation. As the U.S. government loosened control over energy prices, a door opened, not a wide one, but wide enough to change the game. If prices were no longer fixed, energy did not have to be just sold. It could be traded, bought today, sold tomorrow, priced into the future. Kenneth Lay understood that. Then he brought in someone who believed in it even more. Jeff Skilling, a former McKinsey consultant. Skilling did not see Enron as a pipeline company. He saw it as a market machine. Enron no longer sold natural gas. It sold promises about future prices. The company stopped calling itself an energy company. It called itself a market maker, a technology company, a platform for the future of energy. And Wall Street loved it, not because it understood it, but because it sounded right. More importantly, it sounded like endless growth. At that point, there was no exposed fraud, no blown-up numbers, no scandal, only a quieter shift. When a company stops selling what it produces and starts selling expectations about the future, power no longer lives in factories or pipelines. It moves somewhere else, into the accounting. Enron was not just selling promises. It was bookkeeping the future. The tool was called mark-to-market accounting, a fancy phrase for a simple idea. Count all expected profits immediately, even if the money had not arrived. A 10-year energy contract? The whole projected profit was on the books today. No delay, no actual cash, just numbers. It looked perfect on paper. Investors cheered. Stocks soared. In reality, most deals were barely profitable. Some had not even started. Some were based on projections more optimistic than astrology. The system rewarded bold numbers, not accuracy, not reality. And the incentives were huge. Big bonuses, high-stakes promotions. If you made the numbers, you stayed. If you did not, you left. Mark-to-market alone was fragile. It created illusion, but it could not hide real losses. That's where Andrew Fastow entered, Enron's CFO. If Skilling built the engine, Fastow built the smokescreen. Special purpose entities, or SPEs, were his tool. On paper, SPEs were separate companies. In practice, Enron controlled them all. Losing assets? Move them to an SPE. Declare cash received. Risk transferred. Reality hidden. Fastow gave them names like LGM1, LGM2, Raptor, random, playful, but it made the complex look illegal. One Raptor alone concealed hundreds of millions in losses. The system rewarded it. The higher the risk shifted off the books, the higher the executive bonuses. No one had to cheat. The rules allowed it. The game was designed to reward the appearance of growth over the substance of profit. Banks joined in. JP Morgan, Citigroup, Merrill Lynch. They structured deals to disguise loans as revenue. Fees flowed. Hundreds of millions. Everyone profited, and no one stopped it. It worked. For years. The market cheered. Analysts praised the innovation. Fortune called Enron the most innovative company in America 6 years straight. But underneath, the math did not add up. Profits were in projections. Losses were hidden in SPEs. Everything depended on continued confidence. The system rewarded smoke and mirrors. And the more the market believed it, the more the company could expand the illusion. Until one day, someone asked a simple question. How real are these profits? That question would start a chain reaction. Nobody could stop. Enron looked unstoppable. Stock hit $90. Market loved it. Investors bought everything. But cracks were forming. March 2001. A single article appeared in Fortune. Headline: Is Enron overpriced? A simple question. One question nobody had asked out loud. How exactly did Enron make money? The answer was complicated, impossible to follow. Even Wall Street analysts shrugged. Skilling's reaction was predictable. He called the hedge fund manager who asked the question and famously said, "Thank you very much, asshole. No explanation. No proof. Just irritation." The first signs of pressure spread internally. Sharon Watkins, a vice president, noticed inconsistencies. She sent a memo to Kenneth Lay. "I'm incredibly nervous that we will implode in a wave of accounting scandals." Lay read it. He treated it like a PR problem, not a systemic problem. Meanwhile, the market continued to cheer. The stock rose. Analysts praised growth. But the system was fragile. Mark-to-market created profits on paper. SPEs had losses. One wrong move, one public question, and the illusion could collapse. By August 2001, the first major shock hit. Jeff Skilling resigned as CEO. Suddenly, no press conference, no warning. The resignation itself was a signal. The market reacted immediately. Uncertainty spread. Inside Enron, the dominoes were already falling. Employees were nervous. Executives scrambled. Financial statements became even more opaque. SEC began sniffing around. They asked questions about off-balance sheet entities. Fasto was under pressure, and the mechanisms designed to reward creative accounting began to backfire. SPEs, meant to hide losses, were exposed. Mark-to-market projections could not keep up. Suddenly, profits vanished. Investors panicked. October 2001. Enron reported nearly $1 billion in losses. The first official acknowledgement of faulty accounting. The market began to collapse. Stocks dropped. Rating agencies downgraded Enron. Credit dried up. The illusion that had been reinforced for years was unraveling. Fasto resigned. Executives sold personal shares before the public realized. Enron's carefully constructed image of growth and innovation was cracking in real time. What the world thought was unstoppable was being revealed as fragile, artificial, and entirely dependent on continued belief. The first domino had fallen, and the system that rewarded smoke and mirrors was starting to turn against its own creators. By late October 2001, the cracks became a canyon. Enron admitted accounting errors. Nearly $586 million in earnings were fictional. Not projections, not estimates. Real numbers fabricated. Investors reacted immediately. Sell everything. The stock plummeted from nearly $90 in August to under $1 by November. 25,000 employees stared at their retirement accounts. Gone. Over $3 billion evaporated from 401k plans. Years of savings vanish. Executives, meanwhile, had sold millions of shares. Jeff Skilling cashed out tens of millions. Andrew Fasto, the architect of SPEs, pocketed $30 million. Kinley sold stock quietly. The system rewarded this. High risk, high reward. As long as it appeared profitable, the rules encouraged personal gain. Reality was irrelevant. Then came the auditors. One of the big five. Supposedly the gatekeepers. The watchdogs. They were paid millions in audit fees, and millions more for consulting. A conflict of interest so large it was invisible. Enron's creative accounting required approval. Anderson signed off. They were complicit, knowingly or not, because the system rewarded silence. When the SEC investigation intensified, Anderson did what the system implicitly demanded: destroy evidence, documents, emails, backup tapes. Thousands of records shredded. The illusion was reinforced. Anderson's license was revoked. Conviction followed. Reputation destroyed. 85,000 people lost jobs. A century-old firm collapsed overnight. Meanwhile, banks, J.P. Morgan, Citigroup, Merrill Lynch profited, structuring complex deals, disguising loans as cash flow. hundreds of millions in fees. No arrests, no penalties that threatened their business models. Enron's collapse was not just a corporate failure. It was a system failure, a system that rewarded short-term appearances, that encouraged hiding losses, that created incentives for executives to prioritize personal gain over truth. The dominoes had fallen. The market panic revealed the fragility. And yet, the mechanisms themselves, bonuses, accounting rules, market incentives, remained intact. The lesson was not moral. It was structural. Enron's illusion was destroyed, but the system that allowed it to flourish did not disappear. It simply waited for the next opportunity, for the next company willing to play by the same rules. December 2nd, 2001. Enron filed for bankruptcy. $63 billion gone. 25,000 employees out of work. Entire 401k accounts wiped clean. The public outrage was massive. Executives faced the law. Jeff Skilling, 24 years in prison. Andrew Fastow, 6 years. Kenneth Lay died before sentencing. Arthur Omnishen, convicted for obstruction. License revoked. 85,000 people lost jobs. A century-old accounting firm vanished. Congress acted. Sarbanes-Oxley, 2002. SOX. The law demanded accountability. CEOs and CFOs had to personally certify financial statements. Auditors could no longer provide consulting to the same clients. A new oversight board was created. Checks, balances, transparency. The law changed the form. It did not change the incentive entirely. Rules were stricter, but the system still rewarded bold numbers, creative interpretations, and appearances over substance. Banks remained largely untouched. They profited from the deals. No systemic punishment. The infrastructure of hidden leverage and risk remained. Enron had exposed something deeper. Not greed, not even fraud, but how the rules themselves rewarded the illusion. The market demanded growth. Analysts demanded stories. Executives were compensated for appearances. Auditors were paid to approve. Everyone acted rationally within the system. And when the illusion fell apart, the system adapted. Different names, different forms, same mechanics. The twist is clear. The mechanism that destroyed Enron also created the incentives that allowed it to grow for years. What looked like failure was really the system functioning as designed. Enron disappeared, its executives punished, its auditors crushed, but the framework behind the illusion still exists, still rewards risk, appearance, and timing over reality, still creates incentives for the next Enron. The question remains, if a system could produce this once, what makes us think it has stopped?